Hey everyone, so today we're diving into something really fascinating, the psychology of the millennial generation. We're going to try and unpack this huge question of why a generation that was raised on so much hope now kind of feels like it's been put on hold.
This quote, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the central mystery of the millennial experience. And today we are going to piece together exactly how this happened.
All right, let's get right into it. The core of this whole thing for people born between about 1981 and 1996 is this really weird internal mix. It's like a cocktail of feeling like you've achieved a lot, but at the same time feeling like you've completely failed to launch.
And here's the thing. This isn't just a vibe or a feeling. It's a documented fact. Pew Research has confirmed it. And that massive gap, the one between what you expected and what you got, well, that creates some serious psychological tension.
So, what do you call that discomfort? There's actually a name for it: cognitive dissonance. It's that jarring mental static you get when the world you're living in directly clashes with the world you were told to prepare for. It just doesn't compute.
And if you want a really modern, kind of visceral way to think about it, here you go. This phrase just makes that academic idea feel so real, you know? It's that constant pressure to perform, to look successful on the outside, while you're managing this deep, underlying sense of crisis.
And this slide just lays that internal conflict bare. On one hand, you have studies showing a generation that was told over and over, "You are special." But on the other hand, that exact same group is reporting way higher levels of anxiety, depression, and just this nagging feeling of worthlessness. That is a brutal contradiction to live inside every day.
Okay, so how did this all start? Where did these massive expectations even come from? Let's take a look at the psychological environment that really shaped millennial childhoods.
Ah yes, the parenting playbook of the 80s and 90s. The self-esteem movement was in full swing, and you have to remember, this was all so well-intentioned. These were parents trying their best to raise confident, successful kids. The message was super clear and you heard it all the time. You are special and you can be anything you want to be.
So you have this carefully built worldview, right? Well, next we're going to see how that worldview collided head-on with a series of massive disruptions that pretty much nobody saw coming.
Now, this timeline right here really maps out the perfect storm. Just as millennials are hitting their most formative years, late teens, early 20s, they get slammed by this 1-2 punch. First, the rise of social media, which basically turns your life into a performance, and then a catastrophic economic recession that just pulls the rug out from under the entire job market.
And the timing of this was just so crucial. Millennials didn't meet social media as little kids. They met it as young adults, trying to figure out who they were. So as Dr. Kasser's research points out, you're basically learning how to be an adult while also learning to base your self-worth on likes and follows. It's a recipe for tanking your mental health.
So you take the high hopes, you mix in the harsh realities, and what do you get? You get this unique state of being for millions of people in their 30s and 40s, a life that just feels like it's permanently on standby.
And the really crucial thing to understand here is that the desire for these things, marriage, a house, kids, that hasn't gone away. But for so many, the economic ladder to actually get there has been pulled up. And this creates this long, drawn-out feeling of just waiting for real life to finally begin, even when you're a decade or two into adulthood.
And believe it or not, there's a clinical term for the biological cost of all this constant, low-level stress. It's called allostatic load. It's literally the wear and tear on your body because you're in this constant state of readiness, preparing for a stable future that just never quite arrives.
And if you want to know what allostatic load actually feels like, this is it. It's the perfect metaphor, right? That day-to-day experience of feeling stuck, with the little progress bar on your life just frozen, maybe for years on end.
All of this leads to a really profound psychological event. When the social contract you grew up believing in gets broken on a massive scale, it triggers something called schema disruption. It basically forces your brain to completely rewire its fundamental beliefs about how the world works.
In this slide just lays out that broken contract in really stark terms. The promise was so simple, so linear. You study hard, you get a good job, you build a stable life. But the reality they found? Crushing dead, so-called entry-level jobs that require 5 years of experience and a gig economy with zero stability.
And let's just ground this in a hard number. For a lot of graduates, the very key that was supposed to unlock success, that college degree, came with a price tag that acts like a financial anchor, holding them down for decades before they can even think about building wealth.
But here's the thing. People don't just break, they adapt.
So in this final section, we're going to look at how a lot of the behaviors that millennials get criticized for are actually really logical, rational adaptations to a system that completely changed the rules on them.
Let's take job hopping. It gets such a bad rap, right? It's framed as a lack of loyalty. But really, it's a perfectly rational response to an economy where companies got rid of pensions and job security first. Millennials didn't invent corporate disloyalty. They just adapted to it.
And you know what? Out of all this chaos, a really powerful and unique skill set has emerged. This is the most educated, most diverse generation in history. They're digital natives, they're incredible critical thinkers, and, this is a big one, they have started to destigmatize talking about mental health.
And that's maybe the biggest paradox of all. They have the language and the self-awareness to talk about mental health more openly than any generation ever. But they're doing it while navigating conditions that are objectively more stressful. Everything from economic instability to climate anxiety.
Which brings us right back to the beginning, to those questions that get thrown at this generation all the time, sometimes with real frustration. Why are they so anxious? Why haven't they bought a house yet?
And here is the ultimate takeaway. This isn't a story about a generation's character flaws. It's a story about a totally predictable, totally human response to being handed a map that no longer matches the territory you have to walk through. They aren't broken. They are adapting. Thanks so much for joining me.